6 months ago, I made a video about Greg Doucette and his turkesterone claims and propaganda. Over the last few weeks, turkesterone has been getting renewed attention, given the fact that a few different influencers in the space of pharmacology and steroids and bodybuilding came out basically exposing it as either bulk bought Chinese supplements, which are majorly marked up for huge, ridiculous profit margins, or as fake. Now, most people have come out, in the industry, people like Derek from More Plates, More Dates, to talk about this issue and to try and dissect it. These people are huge figures within the community. They have a lot of money and reputation riding on this, and this going south could be very bad for their brand. In Greg's recent video dropped over the last week, he dives into this topic, he finally addresses it, and he talks about his supplements and whether or not they're real or fake. There's so much to dissect from this. Let's get into it.
Coach Greg, and today an update on Turk Builder. As you know, we've been doing extensive research, going through all the trials and tribulations, trying to figure out exactly what's going on. And I said I would be totally 100% transparent. And so I'm here to be 100% transparent. And so we took our products, sent samples out to various universities and experts in the field of turkesterone and ecdysteroids. And some of the tests are coming back, and so I wanted to share them with you. And so there's good news, in fact, great news, but there's also some bad news. And so the good news is we've greatly exceeded label claims, at least from the first tests that have come through. And so it says on the label, Ajuga turkestenica extract 10%. And so what we found is over 20%. That's right.
Okay, so first of all, overdosing a supplement like this, which claims to be a natural anabolic, which would be one of the more potent sort of supplement style drugs that you can take, where we don't have a complex side profile knowledge. It hasn't been clinically studied within humans, as he'll go on to say, because, he does always pinpoint that fact, and seems to believe that just pointing out the fact that it hasn't been tested on humans means that, he's fully impartial and that people can trust his opinion. No, that's just public knowledge. He's just trying to get ahead of the criticism. But if I purchase, testosterone, which is labeled to be 250 milligrams per milliliter, and that turns out to be 500 milligrams per milliliter, well, first of all, dosing that much all in one go is going to cause problems, especially that concentration. But also that's going to cause a whole host of side effects that I wasn't prepared for. I'd never expect, for example, if I was pinning 1 milliliter per week, being 250 mils, to need an aromatase inhibitor or was having any issues with gyno or estrogen. However, if it was 500 milligrams, if that was doubled, I'd have significant issues and definitely need an aromatase inhibitor. I'd probably almost definitely get gynecomastia. So there are some huge issues with double dosing. Now, I'm not saying that turkesterone is equivalent to steroids. We've shown that's not the case. Even best case scenario and it works, it's nowhere near the effect of anabolic steroids, but that doesn't mean its side effect profile can't be, equally as troublesome. There are plenty of supplements or things that don't do as good of a job as anabolic steroids, but they have a worse toll, for example, SARMs potentially. So you want to be really careful, and actually, doubling down on a dose could be just as damaging as getting half the dose you're expecting, if not worse for a lot of people out there.
More than double what the label claims. And so in case you're wondering, 10% of 500 is equal to 50 milligrams. And so what we found out is there was far more than 50 milligrams of the active ingredient than what we expected. However, we did discover some bad news. The bad news is that with further testing going above and beyond what FDA standards are, using advanced testing methods such as mass spectrometry, something that's not required in the fitness industry for these products, that what's actually in the product isn't in fact turkesterone, at least not in large quantities, only in trace amounts. And you're thinking, well, how is that not horrible news? Well, turns out that it
is horrible news. Whenever you purchase something and it turns out not to be what you expect it to be, that is bad news. You don't know the side effect profile. You didn't choose to take that supplement or that drug or whatever it might be. And it's extremely unethical as a supplement provider, especially to try and spin this as good news. We see supplement companies try and do this a lot when they're caught out, when they've got issues with their supplements. They'll try and spin it as a positive, despite the fact that no matter what, not getting what you're paying for is a bad thing. Doesn't matter whether it could potentially even be better. You didn't choose to take that thing which could potentially be better, and it was available clearly because they got it into this supplement. So if you've weighed your options and you've decided that you want X supplement for whatever reason versus the alternative, you don't want to then be given the alternative anyway. It is bad news.
It was not turkesterone that was working all along. The reason Turk Builder was working in the first place was not in fact due to turkesterone, but the fact it had 20-HE and other ecdysteroids. And so what did the research say? Well, I just want to be totally transparent, tell you exactly what is in Turk Builder, what is going on, what is in it. And so here is what's in it. And so as you know, we took random samples of bottles and they opened it up, took 3 separate capsules to ensure quality standards. And in each capsule, there were various amounts of each product. And remember, to have 10%, it would need to have at least 50 in total. And so what did it have? Capsule number 1, total ecdysteroid content, 133. Capsule 2, 123.2. Capsule 3, 117.8. And of note, the most important ingredient of all, the one that actually has human studies on it, that's right, turkesterone, not human studies. Turkesterone has not been
What did I tell you?
something that's been researched by human trials. We don't know that turkesterone actually worked. Remember those old videos I used to make? Does turkesterone work? Does it build muscle? Nobody knows. We did not know at the time. How could we? It wasn't tried and tested on humans. And so a lot of you are going to say, we hate you, Coach Greg. You're such a G-shred. You're such a horrible human being for selling turkesterone. I had hundreds of people write me in the DMs. Coach Greg, can you please sell turkesterone? We've heard this is amazing. It works. Other companies are selling.
People ask me to sell it. What am I meant to do? People ask me to sell it. Sure, there's supply and demand, you know, if you're not supplying it, somebody else is going to, but there's still an ethical debate as to whether you continue to supply so, right? People always make judgment calls day to day about what they will and won't sell. You know, there's a reason why, despite the fact that legally they can get around it, you know, a lot of companies don't sell SARMs because ethically they don't believe it to be the right thing to be shilling these supplements which could have detrimental effects on health to children. Same way that people don't believe in selling a completely unproven new area of performance enhancing drugs, no matter how natural they are. You know, people see it and say, you know what, I don't believe it works. And I think the fact that we don't know the side effects means that it's wrong to sell this to anybody with a credit card to buy them. Basically what he's saying is it doesn't matter whether it's ethical or not, it's strictly business. Which isn't really what you want to hear from an influential figure who makes content and, you know, has a genuine sway on people's opinions on topics. It's an abuse of power, really.
Can you please sell it? Can you get it at an affordable price? Please, please sell it. Same way people said, hey, can you make a cookbook? Could you put your recipes in the cookbook? And so I said, why wouldn't I? Sell protein powder, crave.
I'm sorry, but selling recipes in a cookbook or selling supplements that are well tried and tested within humans is not the same thing as selling turkesterone. The worst that's going to happen from a recipe is you get a little bit fat, and with Coach Gregs recipes, I don't think that's a risk. And with stuff like creatine, what, you're going to retain a little bit of water if you take too much? There aren't really that many negative detrimental side effects. Granted, there's pre-workout, there's stuff which could potentially, if you use it like a dickhead, but things like turkesterone could potentially be damaging no matter what dosage you take it at. Simply, we do not know yet, as Coach Greg points out himself.
Beta-alanine, pre-workouts, all kinds of stuff. People want us to sell it, and so we have a supply and demand thing. You demand it, we supply it. Why would I not?
Imagine turning around in a court and saying, oh, well, you know, there's a supply and demand thing here. You know, people wanted to buy cocaine and heroin from me, so I just sold it to them. Maybe that's what Greg did when he was busted on his drugs charges. Who knows?
Something that the public wants me to sell. I have a supplement company and you want me to sell a supplement. Am I supposed to say, no, I refuse to sell it, but...
Yep.
Coach Greg, we want it at an affordable price. Sorry, nope, I'm not going to sell it. Why would I do that? Wanted to give you a product. Didn't know if it worked. How would I know? I had not tried it. Later on, I actually tried it and it worked. Did not expect it to work for me.
I believe what he's saying here, and I haven't followed his whole journey with turkesterone, is that he tried it after he started selling it. Now, you tell me whether you think that's ethical. If you were to sell something, put your name to it, and push it as hard as Greg has over his channels, do you think you'd have tried it before you started to sell it yourself? Personally, hell yes. I wouldn't usually sell something that I wasn't prepared to put in my own body, within reason, of course. There are people who are ultra conservative, but that's not me. And yeah, I would not be willing to do that if I hadn't tried it myself.
I'm on HRT. Did not expect that once I added in Turk Builder, that I would feel significantly different, that I would get stronger, that I would feel better. But I did, and I did not lie, not once, not for 1 second. You can doubt me all you like, but I'm 100% transparent, telling you the truth. Oh, you didn't gain all that muscle. Hey, yeah, don't need to make more money. Oh, but you have Lambo payments to make. Do you know how many freaking cookbooks I've sold? Cookbooks made me more money than supplements ever did.
Yeah, we know. You bragged about your fucking Lamborghini for ages, didn't you? It was so... when he first got that Lamborghini Urus, I was like, oh, show betting on social media is so fucking douchey. Basically saying I didn't need the money, you know. Unfortunately, we wouldn't have Warren Buffett in this world if having a lot of money was enough for everyone. Everyone always wants more. They actually did a study, and I'm not going to say this is fact, but it doesn't really matter. They went around basically and asked people, you know, what wage would you be happy to stop at? Or, you know, when would you be happy? And almost everybody said 3 times what they're currently earning. Didn't matter what they were earning, whether that was $1 million, 100 grand or 50 grand, about 3 times what they're earning. Everyone believed they would be happy and they would have the margins. But you live to your means, don't you, Greg? You go out buying Lamborghinis. Look, I don't believe that he lied when he tried turkesterone. I think that first of all, there's placebo. Second of all, you know, this kind of evidence, this isn't a clinical empirical evidence. He didn't do it within a studied setup. He wasn't part of a lab study. He didn't fund a study where him and like 30 to 50 other people went in double-blind clinical trials for turkesterone. He just tried it and said it worked. It made a difference. That's his opinion as somebody who is selling this stuff and who has an interest in making it work. I'm not saying he actively deceived anyone. I'm saying that it's possible. That's why we have clinical trials where these factors are eliminated. So his evidence, his whole look, I didn't lie to you, so why would I be lying to you now? First of all, that doesn't work. That's not an argument. People lie on issues, then don't on others all the time. I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying it's a dumb argument. And also trying to say that his claims that turkesterone worked is some kind of ultimate, well, it worked because I did it and it worked. Well, I thought 5 minutes ago, nobody knew if it could work. But then before they definitely didn't, it worked. But it wasn't actually turkesterone, it was something else. So he's defending something which wasn't actually the thing he was defending for working, but apparently then also caveating it with the fact that we have no way of knowing if it works. I knew there was a reason I stopped watching his videos.
Listen, I made my living selling cookbooks, and I could in fact retire, but I don't feel like it because I enjoy doing what I'm doing. I like helping people. I like selling supplements. It's fun. And the people that buy them, they buy them because they trust me not to lie. And did I lie? Not for 1 second.
Except for when you sold something that wasn't what you said it was in doses that weren't what you said they were. Putting your name to something and saying it is this amount of milligrams of this supplement and there not being that amount of milligrams or of that supplement, that's lying. It doesn't matter if it didn't actively come out of your mouth, mate, still lying. So what did I take away from that? Well, Greg isn't actually selling turkesterone. He's selling something else, which is massively overdosed. He's then saying it doesn't matter because it's good and it's probably actually better than Turk. Well, if that was the case, Greg, why weren't you selling it from the beginning? Because if there were all these studies on it, surely you knew about it and you made a conscious decision not to sell that, but to sell turkesterone. I wonder why that is. Is it because people wouldn't buy it because the data out there suggests that it's not really worth it? Either way, this whole field is under-researched, and for people to be selling the newest, sketchiest product out of the bunch with no human trial data at all, and then for it to all be fake and something else, you know, this just proves to me why you shouldn't be going and purchasing these kind of supplements or you know, natural anabolics or anything that's a fad within the fitness industry. Fitness industry fads will always be that. They'll be short term. There'll be people who are looking to make a quick buck. And at the end of the day, there's a reason why, you know, these things generally speaking don't work out, because pharmaceutical companies pull the plug because they're the ones who see earliest, this is not viable. This isn't going to work. Now, if something was weaker, and if it came with a much higher safety profile, they'd probably utilize it for that fact. Right, okay, well, it's a stepping stone, you know. They want stuff that's in between still. Any drug that works and is safe is good to have on their roster, but a lot of these things get chucked out early stage, whether it's because they're dangerous, potentially, like Cardarin, or whether it's simply because they're not worth it, because they're ineffective, like ectosteroids. I tried SARMs, I felt how fucking horrible that felt. Granted, that's a level way above this kind of stuff, but you know, from all the mixed reviews, the people I've heard who have said, actually, you know, sometimes it felt like it was working, sometimes it didn't. Maybe it was placebo. Oh, how much do you spend? Oh, well, it's like 4 times a fucking steroid cycle to run it. What's the point? Like, I'm sorry, but until the point where you're ready for anabolic steroids, nothing is going to completely transform your process. Nothing is going to suddenly make you jacked as a technically natural, because let's face it, where do we draw the line? Is it just what WADA classifies as being banned? You know, it's not going to have the same effect as anabolics. And naturally, sure, you can optimize, but stuff like this isn't going to make a hell of a difference. Eat right, train right, and use the basic supplements that you need for health and for performance. You don't need stuff like this. You don't need to be blowing £100 a month on fucking turkesterone, which isn't even turkesterone. It's just not even worth the gamble. What's the potential payoff? Like 2% to 5% difference? To me, that's not worth it when, you know, I could spend a quarter of the money on an anabolic steroid cycle and get what, 2 to 3 times the benefits? Yeah. I think my mind's made up on turkesterone. Once the research comes out that backs it up fully, you know, I'm more than willing to change my mind. But right now, the evidence is all pointing towards the fact that you should stay away from turkesterone as supplements, that Greg Doucette does not care about ethics within his business, and that he needs to seriously take a step back and realize the influence he has on generally younger people who are inexperienced lifters, because everyone I know who is experienced grows out of Greg Doucette's content pretty damn quick. And think about the effects that it could have of him continuing to push this, continuing to try and dupe them, even when lab results come back saying that he's been lying to them. That's about all of Greg that I can take for one day. I'll see you in the next one.